So good morning, everyone. So we are here on our Friday talk. I never counted how much it is, but it is the fifth year, I think, where we're doing that. So for everybody, Marta is now Vice President of FCSI Iberia, right? From Spain. She's based in Madrid. And we had a very, very interesting session in Liverpool last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. So where she were just presenting who Spanish FCSI, who Spanish industry, what Spanish and importantly what potential we have. And she completely changed in one meeting the way we were thinking about marketing on FCSI. So I was surprised. And I'm very happy that she is here, very young, and compared to us others here,
Thank you.
most of us. So, but very famous already. So, if you, I'm always using Perplexity to check people out. So, if you have the chance to do that, you will be impressed. I will share that after the talk today. So, okay, Marta, the stage is yours. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being with
Thank you.
us.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. And hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. It's a big beginning for FCSI Iberia to be on the Friday talk. I don't know if the Iberia's president Oscar is going to join. He was a little bit full this morning with his agenda, but I will brief him on how it went. I'm pretty sure that you're going to find this very interesting because we really try to give a very strong highlight to the attractiveness of Spanish market today, how it is, how it has changed for the five last years and what it is today. Many people in Europe don't know that Spain today is really a very big hotspot of investment in terms of luxury hospitality, of luxury F&B businesses. So it is very interesting that you really understand why it has become like this and how you get really an image of what it is, because sometimes people think that Spain is just beach, sun, mass tourism, but it has really, really changed in the past years. So I hope you will find this very interesting. I'm going to share my screen now, and do tell me, please, if you see everything right. Okay, so let's go. So first of all, well, I'm Marta. Nice to meet you. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company in Spain called MCL Food Consulting. We actually have two brands. So the first one is MCL Food Consulting, and the second one is It's Enjoyable. So the first one is more focused on a premium luxury market, so Michelin star restaurants, five stars hotels or palace hotels, whereas the second one is much more of a casual and fast food restaurant sector. So we work in restaurants, okay? We don't really work in service caterings or hospitals, or so we really focus on restaurants slash a little bit of tourism. And we do mainly two things. The first one is that we create restaurants from scratch, meaning that we will perform market studies, financial studies, to see whether the project of the restaurant is interesting and has a sense in the particular market where it is supposed to be. And then we conceptualize everything that goes from service, architecture, food. So we have a team of chefs within our team, our company, and branding. Okay, so we work with partners for different things in our company. For example, architecture. We are not architects ourselves, but we know how to build an efficient kitchen, an efficient restaurant, an efficient bar. So we work with these kind of companies to really have something that is efficient operationally. And then we go to the opening with a training process that can last for easily 1 month, depending on the concepts, where we see, well, service processes, upselling, how to produce, store, and serve food, costing, cost control, etc. Okay, so this is the first thing that we do. And on the other hand, we also work on auditing restaurants that are already open. So in terms of operations, customer experience, etc. Okay. And obviously, which is more important today, is that I'm VP of the new FCSI Iberia. So we are really, really happy that it has finally been launched. I was actually waiting for this for a lot of years, and we had last Wednesday our first event, our first coffee with FCSI, and we had 20 attendees. So we were 30 in total. So we're super happy because it was a huge success, and we really hope that we will get to bring a lot of interested people. So moving on with the presentation. So I'm going to put a little bit of context so you understand really the main figures of what Spain is today and how we have reached that point. And then we will jump into hotspots, Madrid, Barcelona, a few big cities. So you really see you have a big picture of what Spain is today. So context in terms of tourism in 2024 we rose the tourist flow but 10% compared to 2023. So today we're reaching 94 million tourists. There's a beep sounding sometimes. I don't know if
Yeah, so
anyone is.
that's what I mean, the ding dong, so that we tried
Yeah.
many years to switch it off. So if somebody's
Okay.
coming in or leaving,
Okay.
so we could
Okay.
not until today we were not able to find the switch to
Okay. Okay. Okay.
switch it off. Sorry for
No
that.
problem. No problem. No, no. It's just that I wasn't sure if someone was if it was from a computer. I'm not bothered. Okay. So today we are the second global tourist destination in the world. Does anyone can guess which one is the first one? You can unplug your microphones if you want to answer. Okay.
Is
Three,
it
two, one.
Dubai?
No, it's European actually. It's much more traditional than Dubai, and I was surprised
Doubting,
with that.
doubting between Spain and
France.
France or
France.
Italy. I'm not sure.
It is France. It
It's
is
Yeah,
France.
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 Yeah, it is France. So I'm very proud of it because I actually grew up in France. So for me, that's my two homes in first and second row. So that's great. But we have really reached the second position, which before was held by Italy. So that's something that is very important. It has been really a very big change in the structure in international tourism. Today, tourism in national GDP is 13%, so that's actually quite high. Tourism is one of the biggest industries. We don't have a lot of industries in Spain, but tourism is really one of them. Hospitality takes a big, big share of the income of tourism in the global GDP. So we really take care of our hospitality services. We have almost, this was the figures at the end of 2024. So we had almost 15,000 hotels in the whole country, really focused on the very big cities, 3,330 sorry, millions hotel investment in 2024, 275 hotel openings planned for 2025. And as for January 2025, this year, there were 118 hotel openings planned for next year. Okay, obviously the figure has probably increased a little bit, but I don't have the updated figures. So there's, as you see, quite an interesting market. There is almost 300,000 restaurants in Spain, so still increasing. We're actually the country in the world with the most number of restaurants per people, let's say like that. So this is the biggest concentration of restaurants in one country in the world, with 42 million euros of total revenue in 2024 and a lot of Michelin star restaurants. So there is a very fierce competition between France, Italy, Spain, and Japan for the first position of Michelin star restaurants. And I think today Spain is in position number 4. So we have 290 90 Michelin star restaurants, among which 354 stars in total, counting also the islands, etc. So I think today or last year, Japan was number 1, which was very surprising because the position was held by Italy and France for lots of years, and today Japan is above everyone. So that's great. Congrats for them. So as you can see, we have quite a big market moving on. But what is more interesting here is that the market has really switched towards luxury tourism, and I will explain later why. And the main hotspot of this tourism, this type of tourism in terms of luxury, is Madrid. Okay, so it has grown since 2020 between 5 to 8% per year, which is huge, okay, in terms of investment. 30% of the budget of tourists with high acquisition power goes to experiences in terms of food, gourmet food, okay, so luxury food or luxury food experiences. 20% of luxury experiences are actually gastronomy related, so that's huge. And Madrid actually holds 50% of that luxury market, and the rest is split between the rest of Spain. So actually, you can see that Madrid has really a really huge interest in terms of luxury. So what are the key trends today in this type of projects that are really ambitious and that are really calling for high purchasing power tourist? So the first of all is the high average ticket restaurants. So we are booming of them. You really don't know where to go to eat because there's a mass concentration of them. Second one is that more and more local governments of each cities are funding public projects that are focused on gastronomy. So this is really dynamic in terms of market right now. So let's say, for example, a gastronomic market or hospitality schools, this kind of thing. So there are lots of public funding that goes to this type of gastronomic project. Okay. And the last thing, which is one of the more important, is that the biggest of the investment comes from LATAM. Okay. And I will explain why. Okay. So LATAM, Latin America. Okay. So there are actually lots of projects that are funded from LATAM investors, but also lots of projects related to LATAM gastronomy as well. Okay, so as I said, success of Spanish concepts in luxury, there's a boom in private cooking schools. So today we're reaching almost 30 private cooking schools. I think we are about 27. So that's huge because we are not so big, but that's quite a big number. There's a lot of demand for Spanish talent, Spanish chefs, Spanish sommelier, Spanish maître abroad. So lots of people asking for Spanish chefs in Dubai, for example, or in Mexico. And also a big influence of Spanish concepts in terms of food. So people want to have Spanish food in Dubai, in London, in Paris, in China. So they call for this type of influence. Okay. Okay, so I'm moving on to the hotspot, which I think is really the most interesting part because this is where I get to really talk about the culture of each one of the places. So I'm going to go over Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, the Balearic Island, and Marbella. Okay, so I'm really talking about new hotspots. Okay, when we introduced this presentation in the last board meeting in Liverpool 2 weeks ago, many mentioned why we weren't analyzing also the Basque Country gastronomic destination, which, as you probably know, San Sebastian, Bilbao has always been a real hotspot in terms of food, but we are really talking about new hotspots. So the Basque Country is indeed a very strong hotspot in terms of gastronomy because they have a very strong tradition of gastronomy, but they have always been like that. And they have always been very dense in terms of gastronomic tourism. So this is why it's not included in the analysis. I saw your question, Harold. I will get back to it later on. Okay. So moving on to first Barcelona. Okay. Why Barcelona? Basically because today the best restaurant in the world is Barcelona. So I thought it was something nice for a homage to Barcelona to be put in first position. So key figures, as you see, the average spending during the stay per person per day is 90 euros. It's quite high for Spain, but you will see that, for example, in Madrid and other places, it's much higher. So that's something to keep in mind. 50% of the expenses are spent in F&B during the stay. So that's also interesting to know. There is almost 7,000 restaurants in January 2025. So that's plus 2% versus 2023. 15.5 million tourists in 2024. An average annual expenditure per person in restaurants of 1.53 thousand euros, and 572 million euros invested in 21 projects in hospitality and hotels in 2024. So that's actually quite a budget. So what is interesting about the ecosystem in Barcelona? You will see that Barcelona and Madrid are super different, really, really different type of public, of target, or of vibe, of type of investment. You will see it's really different. So first of all, Barcelona is very close to France, as you know. It's very northern. And the northern we go in Spain, the more alternative we move on. Okay, so they're much more alternative than in other places in Spain. They're much more cosmopolite. They get influences from France, from Nordic tourists and expats, from Italy, etc. So they have a very, very rich culture, very international. They speak better English than other regions in Spain. And so they are much more conscious in terms of sustainability, slow food, the 2030 agenda. So that means that the projects most of the time have a very strong focus on that compared to those of other countries. Because they're also very well, not Nordic, but they're more Nordic than the rest of the country. There's a lot of gastronomic networking, so they're very associative. They really like to gather together to build business, well, just as we do in FCSI. And there's a lot of associations promoting and pushing the F&B developments. Okay. But it has always been a very strong gastronomic destination. Barcelona and Catalonia itself, but only in Barcelona there is 41 stars in total amongst 31 Michelin star restaurants. So that's quite a big concentration. But the particular point of Barcelona, it's actually that the size of the venues is very small. So in Madrid, actually, I'm from Madrid, so I live in Madrid. We have very big venues. In Barcelona, big venues actually are scarce. So there's not so many big venues in Barcelona. The projects are much smaller. So there's also a type of investment that really goes to a more casual restaurant that will need a smaller space, or maybe fine dining that will need a smaller space, but not big venues type of F&B. So this kind of projects we don't really handle. So it's really, really hipster. And there are different places that have been opening lately. For example, the Balcón Gastronómico of the Olympic Port. So I will show a picture later on. This mainly was a construction over the sea, so over the waters. And they built sort of a harbor, of a leisure harbor with lots of restaurants and terraces. So restaurants are over 2 levels with gardens. So it's you will see and you will have a better view. So that's a new concentration of restaurants, very interesting. There's a new market. If you've been to Barcelona, you know that La Boqueria actually has always been the very famous traditional market in Barcelona. But today there's a new one, which is the Time Out. And Time Out Market is really competing with La Boqueria. It's very well, it's apart from the center. It's still in the center, but not so close from La Boqueria. But still, it is competing with it, with La Boqueria. You find lots of franchises, much more of than in Madrid, more in Barcelona than in Madrid. You probably know El Bulli, which has left a very big tradition of gastronomy. So El Bulli was the best restaurant in the world for 5-6 years in a row, from 20 2008, I think, to 2013 until it closed. So best chef in the world, Ferran Adrià, who was the promoter of molecular cuisine. So he's a really reference in terms of uh, innovative gastronomy. And there is a very big heritage of this restaurant in Barcelona. Okay. The type of public that we get in Barcelona are mainly Italians and Argentinians. So it's interesting because, well, Argentinians, lots of them have Italian roots, but there is a huge concentration of Italian and Argentinian businesses as well. Okay. Um, so that's for the ecosystem. So this is the gastronomic port that I was mentioning. So as you see, it's a leisure harbor with lots of little boats, yachts, etc. And this is the restaurants. Okay, so the restaurants are built here under terraces. And this has been a very big hotspot since it opened. I don't remember when. I think 2 years ago. Um, the three chefs here are the chefs of the best restaurant in the world that I will mention now. Another very big concept in Barcelona right now, it's cocktail bars. So the best cocktail bar in the world today is in Barcelona. This is the one, Paradiso. And the third one as well. So it's actually there. Two of them are in the same city. One of the trends in Barcelona is actually that the traditional bar is gourmetizing to propose the same type of offer, but much more fancy, but much more posh. So here, for example, it's a very funny example. The traditional bar El Pollo, which was held by a father, gave birth to his son's Bar La Polla, which is much more hipster, much more modern, and it's door to door. So it's funny because they propose something very similar but with very different targets. Okay, El Nacional, which is a beautiful, beautiful food market, and as you see, lots of hipster and casual type of concept. So this one is a burrito Mexican place that is order at the counter and eat at the table. Okay. So just a glance at the main concepts that I want to show you. So Disfrutar, so this is the best restaurant in the world. It was founded in 2014 by chefs who came from El Bulli, so the best restaurant that I mentioned before. And well, it has been funded with lots of private funding, and today it's really innovative, really experimental, and very well positioned in the market. El Nacional, which is the food market hall that I was mentioning before. So as you see, it is really, really beautiful. It was constructed within a real market. Okay, it opened in 2014. It is located really in the center of Barcelona, and it hosts about 2 million visitors per year. Okay, so it has 4 restaurants and 4 specialty bars. So it is really, really dynamic, also very, very popular in terms of gastronomy, typical gastronomy. So that's a real reference. Grupo Confiteria, which is the biggest cocktail bar group in Spain. So they're focused in Barcelona. They have 24 premises over there. So this is the best cocktail bar on San Pellegrino's list that I was mentioning before. Their turnover in 2024 was actually 25 million euros for the 24 premises, and each one of the premises has really its own personality. Okay. Tragaluz. So this group actually is across all Spain. Okay, so they have about 15 restaurants in Barcelona, 7, 8 restaurants in Madrid, and a few others in Spain. They have an annual turnover of more than 50 million euros, and it has been working actually since 1987, but it really regained a huge success 10, 15 years ago. Okay. The food is really good. The spaces are beautiful. And tragaluz actually means the ceiling that well has a spotlight, so from the outside. So usually most of the venues have something with the glass, so you can see actually the light coming from the ceiling. So they're very beautiful places as well. So we move on to Madrid. So I'm going to do a break here to ask, well, to answer to Harold. So he mentioned that given the development that we were mentioning before, how can the still high youth employment rate of around 25% in Spain be explained? There is no real explanation. I think that's also part of a culture. Today, there's a big problem because of this hype that is in all across the country. In terms of investment, the prices are going really, really high. Um, and so youngsters can't afford to live outside of their parents' houses anymore. So usually, what people tend to do is having multiple jobs while they're studying. So it gets very, very difficult. There is also a problem of experience in Spain and probably in other countries. There is something that happens is that hiring youngsters with no experience, it's very rare. Okay, although there is lots of public funding for hiring youngsters. But if you don't are not given the chance of working, you're not going to have the experience. So if you don't have the experience, they're not going to hire you. So in the end, it's a little bit the mouse wheel, and it's always the vicious circle. So the official reason to this unemployment rate is obviously different, but me being a youngster and not very long ago also being in this kind of situation, it has part of this as well. So culturally, it is very difficult today to be a youngster in Spain because people are not giving the opportunity to those young people. Nevertheless, we are improving in the unemployment rate. I remember during COVID or a little bit before COVID, it was of a 50% among youngsters, so below 30, and it has decreased. I think also because of the public aid that are giving, because we have quite a lot of public fundings to hire youngsters and to hire in general. So we really hope that this figure is going to improve, but indeed, talent is very rare, and it is difficult to keep it as well and to find it. So there is no real answer to your question because I don't have it. But from my experience, this is part of what is happening today. So I'm going to move on to Madrid. Madrid is a sort of a miracle, okay? Remember I mentioned before that the average expenditure per foreign tourist was about 100 euros in Barcelona, so per day. Here is about 300, okay? So we really are talking about a huge gap in terms of expenditure, okay? So there were 20 hotel investment transactions in 2024, valued in 661 million euros. We have 41 grand luxury hotels last year versus 6 only in 2018. So that's been a huge increase over the past 7 years. We have almost 90,000 restaurants in 2024. Maybe today we crossed the barrier of 10,000. 11 million tourists, so plus 5.5% versus 2023, and an average annual expenditure per person in F&B of 1,053,000 euros. Okay, so that's very interesting figures, very different from the market in Barcelona, as you can see. I'm going to explain a little bit why Madrid is a little bit of a miracle. Okay. So in 2020, after the pandemic, something happened, everything shut, okay? But there were lots of, the public government was super dynamic, super dynamic versus the public government of Barcelona. So Barcelona forever has been the focus of tourism, of well, gastronomy, everything in Spain. But during COVID, the public government really didn't take enough care of the public businesses. Okay. So what happened was that actually in Madrid, they did. Okay. They started giving lots of helps, lots of subventions, lots of public money to preserve the businesses that were already built, and they actually created public funding to attract new companies from other regions. Okay. So what happened at the same time was that the Four Seasons Hotel opened in the center of Madrid. And a few months after opening, the directors of the Four Seasons met with the public governance of the city of Madrid, because the Four Seasons, as you know, is basically targets basically American tourists, because it's initially an American chain. So they wanted their target to come. Okay, they wanted the traditional American target of the Four Seasons chain to be able to come. There were very little routes from the States, direct routes from the States to Madrid's airport. So they made a deal to actually open five direct routes additional to those that were already open. I don't remember from where, but probably from Chicago, from Texas. I don't remember. I actually don't know. But that actually brought lots of new tourists from the States, from America. Then obviously the States, Mexico, with going even downer than Latin America. So basically, there was a sort of a funnel from US tourists to Mexican tourists to the rest of Latin tourists, and we really saw a difference in an evolution in the type of tourists, of the nationality of tourists that we had before and after this. So today, the American tourist is one of it is the one that actually comes the most. So that's interesting to know, because obviously when we have lots of new types of tourism and new nationalities of tourism, there is investment coming. So suddenly there was a lot of Latin American investment from Mexico first, then from Colombia, from Venezuela, people who were fleeing Venezuela, then from Peru, etc., etc. At the same time, there were lots of exchanges between Dubai, Spain, and the Caribbean. So Dubai was already a hotspot who was demanding talent from Spain, but at the same time, Mexico came in. So there was exchanges of talent between the three regions. Madrid area realized that they were holding actually a treasure in their hands, so they started injecting more and more funds into public and private businesses, and what came up to be Madrid's miracle and bubble. So today we are in an exceptional situation with lots of investment. What is happening? That the prices are increasing very much for the minimum wages here, which is not very high. So the minimum wages, a wage in Madrid, I think in Spain, sorry, is about 1,180 or 1,190, something like that. It's not above 1,250. So that's for sure. And so with this minimum wage, obviously you can't afford an apartment in the center of Madrid. You can't afford to go out and dine in a restaurant that is very high, because, well, the prices are not for Madrid people anymore. They are for these people that have created the tourism. So it is a really interesting moment in Madrid right now, because it is happening what happened in Lisbon, for those of you who are familiar with the miracle of Lisbon a few years ago. So it was the same, lots of foreign investment 15 years ago, 20 years ago almost. And what happened, that Lisbon people had to move out of the city because they couldn't afford anymore the prices of living in the center. Okay. So this is basically what happened in Madrid, which is great, but at the same time, not so great for us who live in Madrid. So here we have 29 restaurants, Michelin star restaurants. So less than in Barcelona, but still quite nice. So the type of customer that we have here is in a big share, very luxury, but also lots of Latam, okay? Lots of people from Latin America. Us in the consultancy, in our company, we receive, I would say, 60-70% of our leads, of our business leads, from Latin America, okay? People who are already in Spain or who want to come to Spain, okay? So very urban, much less hipster and alternative than Barcelona, for sure. We are not alternative at all, or very little. We have lots of rooftops. We actually have one particular group of restaurants that are focusing rooftops. We'll see that later. Lots of gastronomic markets, very concepts, so very traditional concepts, at the same time a little bit modern, lots of experiential concepts. And above this, we have the considered the best chef in the world today, which is David Muñoz, who is at the head of the Universe, who is a group of restaurants. So I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a chef with a tomahawk, with lots of piercings, with lots of tattoos. You will see a picture of him right now, and very experiential type of food. So this is David Muñoz. As you see, very experiential restaurants where lots of millions of euros are invested in interiorism, but at the same time, very traditional types of concepts, or concepts that want to be modern but within a traditional place. So, for example, this the signage here probably comes from a restaurant from the 70s or 60s, but it hasn't been changed. And inside, you can have a Vietnamese restaurant, or a Chinese restaurant, or a Lebanese restaurant, or a Spanish restaurant, but we like to keep the traditional of the buildings. Okay, as I mentioned, lots of rooftops, lots of them. You will see in a minute. Very strong market business, so gastronomic markets. We have about 50 gastronomic markets in Madrid, in the city and conglomerate of Madrid. And the Four Seasons Hotel, as I mentioned, which has really been a dragger of tourism in the last years. So Universo, as I mentioned before, is the group of David Muñoz. So very experiential, very urban. So on his in his business, he has 4 Michelin-star restaurants, and his turnover of 2024 was of 25 million euros. So quite of a business for only 4 restaurants. So that's quite impressive. And today, David Muñoz is really more a marketing figure. He really is really famous. El Paraguas, so this is fully focused on experiential. It was founded in 2004, and it is a reference today in Madrid, but they're also present in Dubai, in London, and in Monaco. Okay, so the main restaurant is Amazónico, and their annual turnover is more than 100 million euros. So this is really the success story. Okay, so they are called by everyone. They're everywhere. They're in Mexico. They're in Dubai. They're in Abu Dhabi. They're everywhere. Okay, so this is really experiential and luxury. La Rumba, this is fully experiential. So this during the day is a restaurant. At night, it becomes more of a drinks, bar, music, nightclub. People are not going to be dancing here, but it's going to be more of a adult bar type of venue. So their turnover was of 54 million euros in 2023, and in 2024 it was of 65 million euros. So quite a spectacular increase as well. Azotea. So this is a very interesting case because if you've been to Madrid, you know the main road, Gran Via, which is a beautiful 1 kilometer road with lots of historic buildings, with lots of theaters, lots of shops, of stores, etc. So only in this main street, they have, I think, about 15 rooftops. So their business is rooftops basically, and their turnover is 30 million euros for 2024. So this is really their business model: is great views, good drinks, nice music, maybe good food, but it's not the focus. They want to sell mainly drinks, but with beautiful views all the time. So that's another success story. Okay, so finishing with Madrid and Barcelona, I'm going to just have a few, giving you a few details of the rest of the country. I'm not going to take very long because we are running out of time. So Costa del Sol, which is that's the area of Marbella, Málaga, Benalmádena, and Estepona. So this has always been an attractor to luxury tourists. So we find 670 hotels over there, 17 hotel investment transactions since 2023, okay, of a value of 263 million euros, 8.5 million of international tourists, so almost plus 10% versus 2023. 10,500 restaurants in the whole area, so that's not a lot, but imagine that these cities are not very big as well. And 14.5 million tourists in 2024. So that's plus 3% since 2023. So the ecosystem, very, very luxury, let's say a little bit bling bling, if you understand the expression. So tourism with a high purchasing power, lots of exclusive beach clubs, rooftops, international brands. So very, very international, very Nordic and American type of tourism. There's lots as well of wellness tourism and detox, who is taking quite of a big share, as well as sustainable and healthy, just because the tourists that come actually are looking for that, and they have that as a part of their lifestyle, but still with a strong identity in the local gastronomy. So it's still very festive, very clubbing type of destination, but still with a very traditional touch. Okay, so you can find here a few a few places that actually are in Costa del Sol: Cipriani, Tragabuches, Dani Garcia, which is a really famous chef in Spain; Amos, which is a Sunset Hospitality restaurant. Sunset Hospitality is a big group present in all the hotspots: Mexico, Spain, and Dubai. Calella, Trocadero, again another group in Spain. Nido, so very luxury type of concepts, very as well, very rooted into the tradition. Okay, so the Balearic Island. So I'm going to focus mainly on Mallorca and Ibiza, because the others have a residual market which is smaller. So 50% of the total food service spending came from foreign tourists. So that's quite something. 87.6% of hotel occupancy in the summer of 2024, so plus 2.9% compared to summer 2023. 19,000 million tourism revenue in 2024. 553 million euros in 22 hotel investment transactions in the past 3 years, and an average spending per day in 2024 of 190 euros. So that's also very interesting. As you see, this is even more than Barcelona. So here, as we said, well, very clubbing, very vibrant nightlife, lots of beach clubs, lots of nightclubs, but you also can find a very good quality tourism if you know how to look for it. Very sustainable, lots of yogi places, and there is also a booming of local cuisine. The cuisine of Mallorca and Ibiza are very, very particular, very strong. They have their own ecosystem. So the cuisine over there is really, really booming as a experience of their own, obviously very Mediterranean, but lots of fusion. And there's a high concentration of Michelin restaurants over there, 15 on only the 2 islands. So it's actually quite significant. Okay, so a few places, as you see, well, very Ibiza vibe. So lots of sun, lots of cream colors, but also lots of nightclubs, etc. And last, Valencia. So a gastronomy that goes beyond paella. This is something that I want to mention because it's important that you know that in Valencia there's much more aside from paella. So this really is a gastronomic hotspots per se. So it's really, really food. They're super proud of their food. So 82% of hotel occupancy rate until October 2024. I think the whole year reached about 83, 84. 124 euros per day spent per tourist in 2024. 5.9 million overnight stays in 2024, plus 24% of foreign tourists in 2024 versus 2023. So that's a huge increase, much more than in other regions. And they count 2,252 restaurants in 2024. Okay. So as you see, almost 11% of the Valencian economy is actually tourism. So that's interesting to know as well. So here as well, lots of Michelin star restaurants, lots of tradition, lots of markets, lots of folklore. So for example, Las Fallas, but also a lot of MICE tourism. There's lots of congress places over there. The City of Arts and Sciences, which is this picture here, okay, which is a congress place with lots of venues with related to science. Very traditional cuisine, very sustainable, very rooted to what is done traditionally in this region, but also the best, they say, burger in the world. So there's also lots of modern concepts. Obviously, this will each burger restaurant in Spain say that they have the title of best burger in the world, but actually I think in Valencia they actually won it. So this is why I indicated here. But well, this means what it means. So as you see, lots of beautiful places. Salvaje, which is a Colombian funded chain, which is also present everywhere. Ricard Camarena, which is a Michelin star restaurant. So lots of foodie places, as you can see. So to finish and to give a little bit of time to the questions, what are the takeaways of this? So as you see, Spain has changed a lot, and I wonder if you had this idea of what it is today, or you had the idea of what Spain was before, but it has been such a sudden change, even for us Spaniards, that it is even difficult sometimes to explain it. So the first takeaway that you need to take home is the diversification of concepts from luxury to fast food, for sure. So we really have the whole range of concepts. The second point is that it is very strong international appeal, so really demanding for international funding. They have great public support and fundings for investment that comes from the outside. So this is an opportunity as well for your customers. So this is important that you know, and that there is a constant and stable growth, attracting national and international investment. Obviously, the bubble of Madrid at some point, we hope is not going to burst. We hope it's just going to stabilize, and that the average wage level will start to increase. So we will find a balance, but we don't expect that it bursts like it was in 2008 with the crisis that we had in Spain. But that we reach a balance level, because right now it's for Spaniards and Madrid people is actually becoming quite difficult to actually live in the city. So that's all. Thank you very much for listening, for your attention. I hope this was interesting for you, and that you really understand that this is an attraction for maybe for your customers. I really hope that you understood it that way. And please feel free if you have any questions.
Thank you, Marta. That was very, very interesting.
Thanks.
So if somebody else has a question, so just raise your arm or just jump in and ask questions. So I don't know if I can.
There is a question from Gabriel. I think the presentation will be shared with everyone, right? And the presentation is also being recorded?
Yes, it's recorded, and we will share it on our media. So, but you know, if you share the presentation, then you needs to give it free for everybody to use it, because I think it's very, very, very interesting.
Of course, I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah. So we have Glenn here saying, super presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, I have a question. So, before we reach the 10 o'clock when everybody's leaving to the next meeting, as it is
Mhm.
usual now, the question I have is, in Barcelona, we see here in the news sometimes that, people demonstrating against tourism. They don't want to have the tourism growing, so they you know, spray water on tourists and these things. Is that's a real
It's a
thing, or
consequence. Yeah,
that's
it
a
is.
consequence?
It,
Yeah,
yeah, it is a real thing. It is a consequence of this. Um, the situation in Barcelona has also been ignited by the fact that there is lots of problems with Airbnbs. So the
yeah,
Airbnb market in Barcelona, everywhere in Spain, actually, because I come from a very small town in close to Portugal, and there's also starting to be lots of problems with Airbnbs, and it's a really, really small town. So Barcelona, which is actually very big, it's been saturated with Airbnbs for a lot of time. So what happens with Barcelona is that, thank you, Hannes. What happens with Barcelona is that it's always been a sort of a hotspot for tourism, like cheap tourism, meaning that for years it was an attraction for what we call party tourism. So young people who come to Barcelona to party, to get drunk, basically, and to leave rubbish on the beach. So what happens that this type of tourism after the COVID stopped, now it's starting to become a little bit more frequent, but still it's not as it was, luckily. And there was a huge increase in terms of Airbnbs and rooms basically over the city, which suppose a big problem because that's an attraction for, again, cheap tourism, that also obviously increases the price of the square meter, so people can't afford anymore living in the city because there is no available venues or places, sorry, so houses, and it's the same in Madrid. So the problem with this is that there is a huge increase in terms of pricing, and obviously they're not in their city, so they don't always respect the city or the building as locals. So it is true, and some people say that we expect this to happen in other cities as the number of Airbnbs increase. You're on mute, Frank.
oh, so €5 in the box. Sorry. So the we had the same situation in Venice. I remember. So they have the cruise ships. We were in Istanbul, experienced the same. So that is, as soon as a cruise ship comes, you cannot visit any museum anymore. It makes no sense to
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
be in the cities. And Airbnb is a big problem, Berlin too,
yeah,
and the government's trying to, but it's a government task then to work against that. Yeah. So and help the people. Yeah. So what can you do if it is just a tourist destination and nobody lives there? Yeah. So what is then original and what's not?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah, for sure.
I was in Valencia now, so I was very, very, very surprised because I know Madrid. I love Madrid actually, so but it's expensive as you said, and I spent exactly the number of money for restaurants and food you shown on your presentation. So that
That's
was
funny.
yeah,
That's a quite a
so,
coincidence.
yeah,
The Primoz, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it well,
very much.
is mentioning that if there is a special reason why I did not mention the Basque region as a culinary destination. So this is something that I actually I've forecasted this question at some point, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the presentation. I was really focusing on a new hotspot. So Basque region has always been a huge gastronomic hotspot in Spain for years and decades. So when we were building this presentation, we were thinking, should we include the Basque Country? But Basque Country is already well known by everyone. So what we wanted to do here is to really show those places that have been evolving for the past 5, 6, 7 years, and that are something new that you need to know for your businesses. You already know that Basque region is a huge culinary destination. Obviously, it does have its place in a presentation such as this, but we really wanted to focus on the new hotspot. So this is why it's not here. but obviously you know that Basque region is an amazing place, and we could plan another presentation on only on Basque region in the future for sure. It is really really saturated in great concepts, and it does deserve a presentation by itself.
Yeah. So, but is there many changes then in these old or traditional locations like Basque, so that they say, influence coming from outside, tourists coming, tourists want to have different things, or is it?
Yes. You always find the traditional restaurants that people are looking for, but obviously they do adapt to what the tourist looks for today. For example, I come, as I said, from Cáceres, which is less than 100,000 inhabitants in the west of the country, and you can see the change of the demand of the population. There is much more youngsters, much more hipster places. Now you can find specialty coffees, whereas 5 years ago there was none. Now
Mhm.
you can find fusion concepts between Chinese, Peruvian, and Spanish. You can find much more chefs who come from Michelin star restaurants from Barcelona, Madrid, from Basque Country, who come back to their their roots and to their city to open up their restaurant, but still with a very, very strong traditional component.
Mhm.
So you really see the same in every city. Trend,
Okay.
trend
Malaysia.
concepts, but also rooted with the tradition,
Yeah, yeah. Great, great. So maybe we can then just do another presentation one time
of
for
course.
this and market halls, because I actually all the market halls we're doing since 10 years here in Germany is copied from San Miguel in Madrid. So, but nobody's selling that there, so we don't want to share our secrets of success.
Okay,
Let's do it the next time again. So it's 10 o'clock, I would say. So everybody needs to
perfect.
jump out for the next meeting. Great. Thank you very much, Marta, and see you
Thank you.
all for the next Friday talk
Thank
then.
you.